duty and constitutional responsibility that I stand before you today to inaugurate this Ad Hoc Committee of the House of Representatives, constituted to investigate, examine, and appraise the performance of concessionaires operating federal air and sea port terminals, as well as related shipping activities from 2006 to 2025, and to determine the actual benefits accrued to the federal government of Nigeria over this period. Distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, the decision of the federal government to concession key national assets, particularly our seaports, was driven by government's desire to enhance efficiency, attract private sector investment, modernize infrastructure, improve service delivery, and ultimately increase government revenue while reducing operational burdens on the state. Nearly 2 decades after the commencement of these concession arrangements, it is both appropriate and imperative for the legislature, as representatives of the Nigerian people, to undertake a comprehensive review of their outcomes. For the avoidance of doubt, this exercise is not an attempt to undermine legitimate private sector participation. It is rather an expression of the House's constitutional mandate to conduct oversight, ensure accountability, and safeguard national interests. Nigerians deserve to know whether these concessions have enhanced national competitiveness, protected public assets, and contributed meaningfully to the economic growth, employment, and revenue generation. The scope of this committee's assignment is broad and critical. It includes, but is not limited to: 1, an examination of the terms and conditions of concession agreements entered into from 2006 to 2025, an assessment of revenue flows, remittances, and other beneficial benefits accruing to the federal government and its agencies. 3, a review of compliance with contractual, regulatory, and safety obligations by concessionaires. 4, an appraisal of infrastructure development, operational efficiency, service quality, and labor issues. 5, identification of challenges, gaps, and systematic weaknesses within the concession framework. And 6, the formulation of clear practical recommendations to improve policy, legislation, and future concession arrangements. Honorable colleagues, the House reposes enormous confidence in your integrity, competence, and sense of patriotism. You are expected to carry out this assignment with objectivity, professionalism, and transparency, guided solely by facts, evidence, and the overriding concern for national interests. Your work must reflect fairness to all stakeholders, while remaining firm in the defense of public assets and public trust. I urge you to openly, constructively engage relevant stakeholders. Let your proceedings be thorough, evidence-based, and free from preconceived conclusions. Above all, ensure that your findings and recommendations are such that will strengthen governance, deepen accountability, and enhance sustainability of Nigeria's transport and maritime sectors. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the outcome of this investigation will not only shape public confidence in concessioning as a policy tool, but will further inform future reforms in public-private partnership across critical sectors of our economy. History will judge us by how faithfully we discharge this responsibility to the Nigerian people. It is on this note that I hereby formally inaugurate the Ad-Hoc Committee to investigate and appraise the performance and benefits accrued to the federal government from the concessionaires operating federal air and seaport terminals and related shipping activities from 2006 to 2025. I wish the committee fruitful deliberation and a successful assignment.
Distinguished colleagues, honorable ministers, and heads of ministries, departments, and agencies,
Chief Executive, Executive of Concessionaires, invited experts, stakeholders, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, I warmly welcome you all to this inaugural session of Ad-Hoc Committee mandated to investigate, review, appraise the performance of 4 concessionaires and NPA-operated ports, terminals, logistic facilities, and related inbound and outbound shipping activities spanning the period 2006 to 2025, pursuant to House Resolution HR 130/12/2025. The committee was constituted in response to growing national concern over management performance, transparency, and value outcomes of concession arrangements governing some of Nigeria's most strategic public assets. These assets are seaport, airport, terminals, jetty, are not ordinary commercial facilities. They are sovereign economic gateways, national security infrastructures, and critical enablers of trade, mobility, and development. The House of Representatives, recognizing the critical importance of our national maritime and port infrastructure to economic growth, trade facilitation, and national revenue generation, resolved to establish this committee to ensure a thorough and evidence-based review of the benefits accrued to the federal government from these operations. The committee is therefore tasked with performing oversight that is not only comprehensive, but also transparent, objective, and accountable. In executing this mandate, the committee will engage relevant government agencies, regulatory bodies, and private sector stakeholders. This includes the Nigerian Port Authority, the concessionaires, the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agencies, NIMASA, Nigeria Customs Services, the Nigeria Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, NUPRC, the Bureau of Public Procurement, the Shippers Council, operators of crude oil and gas terminals, domestic vessels owners, charterers, importers, shipping companies, and banks. Our engagement will focus on compliance of statutory breaches and revenue performance, among other critical areas. Our objective is clear: to ensure that the federal government and the Nigerian people derive maximum benefits from our port and terminal operations, that revenue due are fully captured, and that operational lapses or inefficiencies are identified and addressed. This is not only an exercise in review, but a critical step towards strengthening governance, promoting accountability, and fostering an enabling environment for sustainable growth in Nigerian maritime sector. I call on all members of the committee and all stakeholders we shall engage to approach this mandate with the highest sense of duty, professionalism, and commitment to national interest. I am confident that through rigorous oversight, robust evidence-based analysis, and constructive engagement, this committee will deliver recommendations that will strengthen the efficiency, transparency, and economic impact of Nigeria port and terminal operation for the benefit of all Nigerians. The committee understands the weight of this responsibility. We determine to leave behind a legacy of stronger infrastructure governance, improved service delivery, enhanced investor discipline, and restore public confidence in Nigeria concession program. I therefore call on all participants to approach this process with seriousness, candor, and a shared commitment to national interest over narrow advantage.
As we have formally inaugurated this Ad-Hoc Committee today, we did not merely constitute another investigative body. We have taken a decisive step towards restoring integrity, efficiency, and global competitiveness to Nigeria's port sector, a sector that remains the heartbeat of our national trade and economic prosperity. One critical aspiration for me while drafting the motion that necessitated the inauguration of this committee was observing that it has been nearly 2 decades since the port concession program was introduced with noble intentions to modernize our ports, attract private capital, enhance operational efficiency, and relieve government of heavy infrastructure burden. While the private sector has played a role in keeping cargo moving, the reality before us today is that many of the core objectives of that reform have not been fully realized. We are still confronted with expired and poorly enforced concession agreements, weak regulatory oversight, crumbling infrastructure that should have been upgraded long ago, persistent revenue leakages, and serious concerns around transparency, documentation, and remittances. Instead of seeing world-class terminal driven by sustained private investments, we have witnessed government resorting to foreign loans to repair assets that were contractually meant to have been maintained by the concessionaires. While considering to the legislative impact of the primary motion moved and passed, part of which is its call to investigation, we must note that the work of this committee is therefore not an attack on private participation. On the contrary, it's about building on the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, whose vision is for the nation's port sector to drive a credible, rules-based system where responsible investors can thrive, contracts are honored, institutions are strengthened, and Nigeria's port can compete favorably in the best in Africa and across the globe. We seek a port sector governed by clear legislation, an independent and empowered regulator, transparent concession framework, robust performance monitoring, and infrastructure that meets modern shipping standards. We envision ports that are efficient, corruption-free, digitally driven, investor-friendly, and capable of supporting Nigeria's ambition as West Africa's logistic and maritime hub. To our concessionaires and private operators, this process offers an opportunity to demonstrate compliance, recommit to investment, and strengthen public-private partnership built on accountability and trust. To government agencies, especially the Nigerian Ports Authority, Nigerian Customs Services, the MASA, and Nigerian Shippers Council, your cooperation will be vital in providing accurate records, enforcing standards, and protecting national revenue. To civil society and the media, your oversight and transparency will help ensure that this exercise delivers real reform, not mere reports. And to prospective investors, let me assure you that Nigeria is serious about creating predictable, lawful, and globally competitive port environment, one where contracts are respected, infrastructure modeling, and return on investment are secured. Honorable members, history will judge us not by how many motions we pass, but by how boldly we correct systemic failures and lay foundation for sustainable growth. This committee's work must lead to actionable reforms, stronger laws, clearer institutional roles, renegotiated or terminated non-performing concessions where necessary, and a port system that truly serves our economy. Let us therefore approach this assignment with patriotism, professionalism, and urgency. The future of Nigeria's trade, revenue security, and maritime leadership depends on what we do today.
Questions and answer session to ensure focus, orderliness, and depth. We shall first engage regulatory and policy institutions to understand the concession framework and oversight mechanism. This will be followed by a session with the Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission, Nigeria Port Authority, Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, related agencies on contract design, monitoring, and compliance. Thereafter, concessionaire will appear before the committee for performance appraisal, focus on investment commitment, service delivery, revenue remittance, and compliance with contractual obligations. We will also hear from the users of the system, labor unions, freight forwarders, airline, shipping operators on operational realities and service outcomes. Independent experts, auditors will be invited to provide objective assessment of the economy and governance impact. Fourth, after the public hearing, the committee will hold internal technical session to reconcile documents with testimonies, identify gaps, and validate findings before finalizing the report. Distinguished colleagues, the committee is not set up as a wish hunt, but as a fact-finding and accountability mechanism aimed at strengthening governance, ensuring value for money, and guiding future concession policy in the national interest. I urge all members to remain focused, objective, committed as we proceed with this important national assignment. May God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you so much.